Tonight will be very exciting night because we invited from New York City the Talibam.
Right.
And tonight's timetable is here. So at first, Matt Motter and Kevin Shea, they have a lecture about Talibam and the avant-garde scene in New York City, about 12 minutes. And then we have a Q&A time. So you have a question for Talibam, don't hesitate to raise a hand. Okay. And the intermission is 9:30. And this is a main project of here is workshop with Talibam. So do you have the instrumental tonight? Okay.
We have enough.
Yes. Let's have a session with Talibam.
Oh.
And end of the workshop, we have a feedback and sharing ideas with them. Okay. I hope tonight is very exciting and interesting time for us and Talibam. So please come.
So much pressure. Like this is a sound, this is a sound. This could be a sound. Like underneath is a sound.
I grew up in New York City. I'm a piano player. To me, the most important musical education is not from teacher to student, it's from person at a concert, listening. And when we met in 2003, we were both ready to be in what I call a working band, which is a band that plays as often as possible and advances. So in 2003, when we meet, the New York avant-garde scene has many clubs. The purpose is to be individuals as composers.
Yeah, and also that it's funny with that we left it on, but I was struggling with my bass drum pedal on that song, but we just improvised while using I was trying to bring the pedal back in playing position because it had been falling off the drum, but it was kind of a weird scattering of rhythm, so we kept it in there. Sometimes the unexpected mechanical failures can lead to interesting results, sonic results.
We'll just like watch a clip of us now 10 years later playing really without instruments, so doing a performance in a theater context.
So that we were asked to perform at this theater, but sometimes they don't have instruments for you to play, and we couldn't bring our drum set. We took the bus down to Philadelphia, and so sometimes if we're invited to do something and there are no instruments, we'll perform anyway. So that was we'll find you don't need instruments to make
performance. Yeah.
So.
Why did you pick the name Talibam?
In 2003, when we started the band, that's the beginning of the Iraq War in the U.S., and it's also a time where both of us are thinking about social and political and cultural relationships as its relationship to art and pure aesthetics. And we felt that band names were basically pure aesthetics, what I called a hipster linguistics. So you took two words together that had no meaning, and that was your band name. And so band names were just these challenges of how cool is the word combination. So you could have case computer, like etc. And like wall speaker, red table. These are just ways of putting language together that are the typical way of band names. And so the name Talibam comes from a headline in the New York Post in 2001 when America is bombing Afghanistan after 9/11. And we disliked that headline so much, and that headline had stayed in my college dorm refrigerator, that when we were discussing band names and their lack of purpose, I said, well, Talibam defines this time that we are in. This is the moment of our culture. So why not appropriate this name that we dislike and try and do something that is suggesting alternative? And so we didn't think 16 years later that the political and cultural situations were going to be worse than they possibly were then. But the name still stands as a definition of this era.
Yeah, and it's the Talibam was the next day. It was Kabulzai. The headline was Kabulzai the next day. So I don't know. I think it's a good question that we don't talk about enough. But I wish we had the image of the New York Post headline.
No, but the name itself is a confrontation politically and culturally to say that this is not okay. And if we have limited range as people that can vote as our political exercise, we can demonstrate, we can protest, but we can also continue to make art. But if we are making art, I think there's some civic responsibility to suggest alternative. And also the concept of appropriation in art going back for the last 50, 60 years in pop art, in conceptual art, and even the term appropriative art from the 1980s is a way of finding a source material and modifying it.
The next question.
Did you ever have problems with that name? Like what it was really
there have been the question has been whether we have been potentially not taken as seriously as we would like to be taken because of the band name. Because the band name is a dare. It's a dare because it does sound stupid, but then you have to decide, well, why are these guys choosing this name? So the purpose is to make you think deeper. So in a sense, if people are only thinking about art and culture from surface place, it's easier to dismiss Talibam. But if you go 2 or 3 levels below, then I think you can find a wealth of information and see the responsibility that we are actually carrying by using this name. Like, I don't think we use the name lightly, because you see in our performances, in our music, that we are interested in challenging your expectations.
So we like to improvise. One of the ways of the fun games we play for improvisation is to set up different obstructions. And one of the best lessons I learned was in an improvisational group was they asked me to improvise with a credit card only. And so I had to do a 30-minute piece of credit card improvisation. So I thought it would be fun to, if you have a credit card or something like it, that you could use for the first improvisation, that we could try playing your instrument with, or if you don't have an instrument, play the surface of anything, but just using your credit card. Credit card improvisation.
Very good. I think what was interesting about that was that if that had gone on and continued, the piece, we are all making decisions. So I see one person throwing the credit card. I see one person playing the credit card with someone else's hair. I see everyone choosing to do things. And as time goes on, the decision-making process will become more collaborative. Like maybe I will hand you the credit card. You will hand me a different one. All the credit cards go in one place. So it's a template for communication amongst people, which is the point of collective improvisation.
Yeah, also like credit card, you start to learn that it actually has a lot of sonic ability, like you can which is good for improvisational stuff. It's also good on the window. Or a little mouse.
But those are your techniques. They don't have to be.
I'm saying that an object that looks like a credit card, everyone can develop. If you spend time, you can develop your own techniques with it. That's the whole point of it.
Absolutely.
Like for example, maybe we should try one with cell phone case.
Okay, yeah. Let's try that, yeah.
Cell phone case improvisation. Improvisation. Finale, yeah. So, yeah, the idea is that you can make sound with anything. And so, on that note, maybe we should try a little improvisation with
instruments.
With whatever you want to play, but with a little conducting.
Let's have all the musicians introduce themselves with just a little bit of sound, like a 10-second solo. Everybody to play one at a time. First, just so we know.
Too.
That's us too. Yeah. So you
I'll
go.
Start
Yeah.
my little 5-second solo.
Yeah.
Or 5-second sonic
Yeah.
introduction. Kevin Shea, drummer.
I need to blow this up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So. I think we became a real ensemble.
Yeah. That was great.
Yeah. What I thought was really special there was that I think everyone felt compelled to be themselves. The freedom of being an individual in a society is a choice that we all have to make. And so to be able to creatively express yourself as individuals in a group like we just did is special. This is a piece. Yeah. Oh, sure, thank you. That I created a few years ago that was based on the theories of obsolescence versus innovation, dealing with the binary concept. And so the concept of the piece was that you look at the image and you choose which is obsolescent and which is innovative. And so if you're playing an instrument with a note based with a D sharp, you could either play it as a staccato note, a short note, or if you thought, so that would be an obsolescent image. And if you thought it was an innovative, what?
Obsolescence, what do you mean?
An obsolescence is something that is either old or is now out of date. Innovation is coming from a new idea, a place of technology, and the idea was that the innovative sound was going to be a sustaining sound. So you were going to make a choice in real time whether the object was innovative or obsolescent, and you would play a short note if you thought it was obsolete, and a long note if you thought it was innovative. You can, if you want to use your voices, if you don't have an instrument, you can sing or shout whatever you want. It doesn't have to be at the note. But if you want to play the notes, you can play the notes.
So this side is short?
No,
this side is long?
That's your choice to choose whether, like, which object. Some people may think the dollar bill is obsolete, and some people may think it's innovative.
You choose.
You choose. Yeah. An obsolete note is going to be a short note because it's out of time. Innovation is a long time.
Matt, is it a kind of a graphic notation?
Yeah, this is a graphic notation. I think I'm really like inspired by everybody in this room for jumping into creativity with confidence. And I think probably everyone already has the ability of being a performer in whatever way they want to be a performer. Because often a lot of musicians that are from a classical background get stuck when they are asked to improvise because they say, I don't know what to play. So
Yeah.
we're moving past that.
Sometimes it can just be the execution of a concept for improvisation. You don't have to. Doesn't have to come from the internal, the soul or something like that. I think we should do a 2-minute. Whoever wants to take the puppet challenge on the piano.
Challenge. So maybe before the conclusion, we should just talk all amongst ourselves of what the audience, what everyone's reactions and how you felt is. What are your histories in creative improvisation or performance? Like, is this a new, like, what the concepts that we brought to the event? Are they new concepts, or did you feel that you already were aware of kind of our cultural influences of avant-garde music, creative music? So I leave it. Let's have a conversation.
So what do you think? What is the goal about your creation?
The goal is to be part of open communities.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like to think that community is not regimented to, oh, you're only a classical violinist, or oh, you're a tap dancer, or monoculture is kind of like something that we should all try and think about as a way of moving past. So in arts, we have that opportunity explicitly. And so as artists, it's our responsibility to try and incorporate as many ideas into the method as possible.
Yeah, but also I think sometimes we don't have to have a goal,
Okay.
Yeah,
So just
it can be,
expression.
yeah, or it could just be activity.
Mm.
An activity can have a result
Yeah.
that's positive or negative
Yeah.
or nothing.
Yes.
No, doesn't need to have an artistic.
We like failing. We like experimenting. Like we've often done concerts where our idea is stronger than the output of the presentation. So until the idea is refined, so we do a strong performance, the performance fails because it lacks tension or skill, or just clearly shows that we are not good at what we're trying.
Okay.
But we are interested in breaking down that barrier between skill and no skill, high art and low art, stupid and smart.
Yeah, and also the context. You have to be aware of. It's good to be aware of the context too. Like if we're in a classical symphony, obviously the timpani player can't jump around. So it's also some sort of contextual awareness of the people you're playing with, and you don't want to offend someone by throwing the cymbal on the floor if you know that they will be offended. So to have some awareness of the context, and then you can kind of like play the part of that context, and then go to a different context and play the part in that context, and then some contexts are open to everything, and then those are kind of the most fun for us, but some people like to stick within one context. But I think it's good to know what each context likes, and then you can go into those and treat them almost as like an obstacle course. So it's sort of like a maze of this context, that one, this one, and have fun going between all of them.
So before and after performance, like you think so the relationship between the performers changing or
The space, the room, the environment, how long we've traveled to get to the concert. Like Talibam is kind of is site specific in a sense, in that if it's a performance where there's no instruments, that's okay. If we have rock bands set up, we will do that. If there's musicians that want to play with us and we want to play with them, we can try that as well. So each performance is predicated based on what the room is. So some bands only play their set. Like if you're Motorhead, you only play Motorhead music. But maybe it would be interesting to see Motorhead or Metallica show up to gig and have no instruments.
Or play with Chick Corea.
Yeah, Metallica and Chick Corea. Yeah. So maybe like in the future, that's where we get to, where we are not so limited as artists.
okay.
To find community and discourse between these different genres or contexts, I think is the sort of the goal we have, is like to bring people together in positive ways.
Okay.
But if some people are offended by it, then we don't, we're not trying to offend people. So, but that sometimes people have opinions, and in a way, we're trying not to have a taste discussion. If we're not doing something necessarily because we love the sound, or it's more about community. So if the result is artistically something that someone might not like, that's not really the point.
Yeah.
So can we get beyond our own tastes, our own egos,
Taste and the hierarchies of what one person thinks is cool or appropriate versus what someone else thinks, to me, is arbitrary. The idea that one person has power to influence millions of people or thousands of people versus a democratic process of all sounds being allowed, or cultures and things like that. Like, I like the idea that we can be, like, taste is the least important part. Like, in food, taste is important. But again, but it's like if someone says to me, what kind of food is your favorite food? I like all food. Yeah, so like one of the favorite phrases I have for music is sound soup. So I like thinking that music is a sound soup, and one sound is a low bass sound, one sound is a bird, one sound is the ocean, one sound is, you know, shrieking, you know, voices. So just as long as you're, you know, eating the sound soup, you're always going to be full musically.
But the sound that the food is a good analogy because taste, sometimes you do need to overcome your taste with food. Like
Yes,
if you
yeah.
eat too much sugar in the States, like, you know, people have a lot of diabetes and things like that. And so we need to drink less Coca-Cola. And but so that in that case, if your taste is that you love it, what you need to do is not drink the thing you love the most, you know. And it can be like that for music.
Yeah.
And live ego-free lives and
Peace and harmony.
yeah.
なんかそういうなんか正解がないスペースみたいなちょっと次元が違うスペースみたいなのが街にあるのはなんかすごいこっちっていうかなんかその一方的にアーティストが曲を流すっていうよりなんか参加できる場所が街にあってもなんかこういういい空気の読み方とかができてなんかやっぱり場があるのがすごい大事だなと思いました。でタリバンの演奏とか YouTube でも聞いたんですけどやっぱり場でなんか一緒に作ってるとか、なんか場の空気みたいなのがすごい音楽の一部になってるなって感じました。
But today's performance is she felt very comfortable and fun because the people doesn't everybody didn't read the air. So we could communicate directly by the music. Yes, she felt.
I felt that too.
Yeah. She felt very well. And the other impression of her is that and there is many places in New York City for the musician or either professional or amateur, and you know in subways people play freely.
Yeah.
Yes. And she envies such a place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting that in my impression of Japan in Tokyo, is that almost all spaces are meant for transit. So you are going from one place to another, but you are never in one location to be with each other. But then I did go into one part of Shinjuku where young people are all standing together, and it's kind of a square, but everyone is standing together on their phone. And same in Kiba Park, where many people are together, but they're all on their phone. And so it made me, you know, like as an artist, I think about my relationship to public space and how can we as people affect public space. And so maybe one of the solutions when the law is now, it does not allow for a musician to be a musician in public space, is to think about some of the exercises we did here where you can, you know, everyone do a composition of jumping or, you know, credit card composition. So suddenly Shinjuku isn't just a place of young people on their phone, but a place of young people jumping up and down. And so
Don't break the law.
well, but that's not breaking the law. That's
Oh, I don't know.
yeah.
Whereas Japanese experimental music scene, you've been a lot of the gigs
Yeah.
this tour,
Yeah.
and you had a lot of feels. You saw that.
Yeah.
And so totally, what do you think? How you feel?
How do we feel about the scene? Is that what you're asking? Ooh.
Oh, okay.
No.
I mean the compare of the New York scene.
Well, I mean, I said this before that the skill level of the Japanese artist is as strong, if not better, than the American scene. So the idea that we are challenging ourselves by being with all of you is what we are excited by. And so I think that that's the lesson I've learned from this trip, is that I can always improve, that I can be better, because I've seen sets of music that have been really impressive, that have really challenged my sense of perception and made me want to become a more creative artist. And so I thank the Japanese community for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good response. Totally.
Yeah.
Leave with huge amount of inspiration back to New York.
Yeah, and with the plan to be back. So.
Thank you for
Yeah.
setting this up.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Mata ne.
Thank you for Talibam, Matt and Pidgin. Thank you for coming.